Hello, my little yarnivores and spiderettes. Fiber Spider back again with another tutorial just for you. And I had so much fun knitting this piece. So very much fun. This was a breeze to do, actually. Now, this is a super simple garter stitch shawl that I did. Also, you must forgive my camera for acting a little bit weirdly because the colors, excuse me, the colors, it's a lot of orange and so forth, so it may be sort of messing with the messing with the camera a little bit. Absolutely love the autumnal colors that I came in contact with. This is Caron Cakes, and what I did was I used 2 strands of Caron Cakes held together, but not with the colors matchy-matchy. They were, different when I was balling them. And I used size 17, yes, size 17 knitting needles. And so it has a really soft and squishy, yes, I say squishy, texture to it. Really quite simple. And because the needles were so big, it worked up really fast. And it is only a 2-row repeat. You know how I love those. So very simple. And with this, it's funny because you start in this corner and then you just keep working your way down. And then when it is big enough, you have your finishing edge is this point down to the bottom point. And the only thing that I will definitely stress, very much so, is that when you are finished with the piece, and you can make it as big as you want to, by all means, but when you are binding off, you want to be loose. You want to be loosey-goosey. In fact, you may even want to use a size 1 or 2 sizes up from what you're currently using. Me, I was a little bit tight when I was binding off, so the edge is a little bit tight, and I'm not happy with that, but for next time. So that is what you definitely want to keep in mind. And you are going to need, of course, circular knitting needles because you have one entire length of your piece. I from here all the way, you have to have all those stitches on your circulars. So you are going to need circular needles. I would say preferably 29, 32-inch circular needles. You should be fine. The bigger the better, as always, in this particular case. And, you can use 1 strand, you can use 2 strands, really whatever works for you. But I wanted to let you know what I did to achieve such a beautiful blended colorway going on here. And I think it was Cinnamon Roll by Caron Cakes that I used. Again, as always, not sponsored, but I always like to let you know what it is that I use so that you can duplicate the results. Now, for the tutorial today, I'm going to be using 1 strand of, this is Vanna's Choice in a lovely red. And because I'm not going to be doing that much, I'm just going to be using some double-pointed needles, size 10. And without further ado, let's get started. Hello. Alrighty, so I have my size 10 6mm knitting knitting needles, excusez-moi, and I've got my yarn here. And so we're going to start with our slip knot, as always. And so basically, as I said before, we're starting with one of our points. So we really, we've got a pretty easy thing. It's like, we have our 1 stitch on there, and we are going to do an increase. And to do that, quite simply, for this particular case, is going into that 1 stitch and, excuse me, I'm losing my voice already. So you're going into the stitch, and we're going to do a knit front back. So that's going in, and then we're going to go in again through the back loop of that same stitch. And bring that loop up and There you go. So now you have 2 stitches. And I'm going to do that for you once again, because I know it can seem a little bit weird and a little bit daunting. So yes, I'll do that again for you real quick. No problem. Just want to get my knot tighter. There we go. All right, so we're going to do our knit front back, otherwise known as, well, knit front back, aka KFB. Okay, so going in as if to knit, you're pulling up that loop, and you're keeping it on there, and then going in through the back of that same stitch. And there you go. Voila. All right, and then for the second row, just knit both stitches, because for this particular piece, you are increasing every other row. So just knit and go into the second one and knit that stitch. Easy peasy. Okay, now, as far as the rest of the project, you have some options. You can use KFBs or you can use yarn overs in which to do your increasing. And I'm going to show you how to do both ultimately. All right, so we shall continue. Alrighty, so we did our simple plain knit row, and now we're going to do another increase row. So now the way that I did it for the piece that I showed, I would just knit, in this case there's only one stitch that I'm just knitting, but I would knit until I reached the end of the row, and then I would do my increase, which is what I did. I did the KFBs, the knit front backs, for every other row to do my increasing. And so basically you're just doing your through and then pulling up another loop through, and now you've got 3 stitches. And it was always the last stitch of every other row that I did the increase. And then of course the next row, it's just knit stitches, no increasing, which is, for me, it's like a godsend, getting a break and being able to do a project where half of the project, it's just, just knit each stitch, nice and easy. And then so that for the following row, yes, we need another increase. So it would be a matter of knitting the first 2 stitches and then increase the third with a KFB, which is again going in, pulling up a loop, then going back in again, going through the back of that loop, and ending up with 4 stitches. And that's really all you do for the entire project. It's really that simple. And in spite of the fact that it's that simple, I wanted to show you anyway because it was so much fun to do this piece. It really, really was. And especially because I love carrot cakes. If you've been following my channel for any length of time, I love carrot cakes and the different colorways and so forth. And I am a sucker for autumnal colors, anything with earth tones and autumn tones and so forth. I'm an absolute sucker. So now another thing that you can do is, like I said, you can also use yarn overs. So I'm on the increase row right now. Now to do the yarn overs, really just as simple. Basically, oh, excuse me, I'm so hoarse today. Again, you would knit across until your last stitch. And then when you reach the last stitch, you could, do a KFB on that last stitch, or you can do yarn overs. Now, to do the yarn overs, it would be just wrapping the yarn from the back to the front, and then knitting your last stitch. And then you would end up with a row of eyelets along the top edge of your piece. Now, it doesn't look like much now, but if we keep going, you'll see what I mean. So right now I'm just doing my regular row right here. And no, I'm not doing my little row counter. I don't think it's all that necessary. Not for this one. And then so for the next row, which needs to be an increase row, so you can see the eyelet right there. And if you're going for a decorative edge, I think that that makes a really simple and nice way of achieving that. So again, you're just knitting the first bunch of stitches. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. And then when you reach the last stitch, just yarn over, and then knit the last stitch. Voila! And this is your top edge right there. And then, so this is one of your top points, and this is the bottom point down here. And that is how the entire project grows. So it's not asymmetric, which I really do like. As much as I like the Linus shawl and the asymmetric shawls and stuff like that, sometimes you do want some symmetry. However, if you are using yarn that does change color, whether it's a quick change or slow gradient, this would look absolutely lovely in an ombre. Very, very much so. But, I'm a fan of the Cairn cakes, what can I say? So with that in mind, you can achieve some really neat effects using a color change yarn. And you can do with eyelets at the top, or just do as I did. The other reason why I decided not to do the eyelets for my piece was because the needles were so big. I didn't want to have these, huge gaping holes along the neckline. So, anywho, I hope that this does make sense. And then again, since I just did my eyelet, the next row would be just knits and then another eyelet row. Just, back and forth between increasing and no increasing. And it is as easy as that. And this is another one of those great projects where you can have some mindful stitching. I don't like to say mindless. I like to think of it as mindful stitching, because you can think deep thoughts. You can think about whatever it is that you want to think about without having to worry about the pattern, because it's really that simple. Now, another thing that you could quite conceivably do is, if you're not using the eyelets and you're doing KFBs, what you might want to do is to use a stitch marker and place it on the needle on the end where you would be doing your increases. And I'm going to show you that, because it can be very, very easy to not be able to distinguish which side is which, if you're not doing the eyelets. So what I did was, when I was doing mine, I went in with my KFB and did the first bit. Then I put my stitch marker on my needle, and then I continued and finished the KFB. Like so. And it's just going to stay right there, no problem. And then when you reach, excuse me, I am so sorry today. It might be the weather. So then when you reach the stitch on the way back, when you reach it again, you will not have any doubt as to where your increase is. And because I was working on so many different projects, it was a bit of a lifesaver for me using the stitch marker. It really did help. And the reason why I started the KFB, put on the stitch marker, and then finished the stitches because that way there's only one loop right there. Otherwise, your marker is going to keep traveling, and that's no good. So I'll show you that again. One more time, just because you know me, I like to be thorough, as always. And I really do hope that you enjoy this cute, simple, very simple tutorial. So I reached the point right there, pop off my marker, start the KFB, and then put the marker back on, and then finish my KFB by going into that back loop, like so. And that's all there is to it. Da-da-da-da. Very simple. As always, I hope you enjoyed this little tutorial, and if you did, please show your support and give me a little thumbs up button down below. And also, I would love to hear your comments, as always. If you want to see more videos, please hit subscribe. And also, I try to post videos as often as I can, whether it be knitting, crocheting, audiobook narration, or also you can always visit me at my other channel, Fiber Spider Games, for video game playthrough and commentary. And until next time, I want all of you, my dears, to stay inspired, stay caffeinated, and above all, stay stitching. I love you guys, and I will see you in my next video. Bye for now.